Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming. I hope lunch was good. I don't know if you had a chance to go outside, see a little bit of the sun. We've got a pretty busy session for you. My name is Sean McGovern. I'm working for Microsoft Corporation in the hosting group, and I look after business development on Enterprise Mobility Suite with our service provider community. Got a pretty fun-packed session for you today. Hopefully you'll find that very, very useful. I'm going to kick it off with two pieces. First piece, give you a very simple, high-level overview of what Enterprise Mobility Suite is. We still have many, many partners that are not necessarily aware of the solution, and this could be the opportunity for you to get a first understanding and maybe later on to go a little bit more deeply. And then I'll share a little bit what we think the opportunity for our partners on CSP is with Enterprise Mobility Suite. Then the real work of the session will start. I have my four partners here in front of me, and they'll be sharing with you essentially sales and marketing best practices. So quite short but focused presentations on different parts of the go-to-market cycle, if you will. And what I'd encourage you to do is to let them get through their presentations. It's a fairly packed agenda because we have an open Q&A. It'll last roughly 15 to 20 minutes at the end of the session, and that's where you can basically drill into the details that you'd like to understand better if you have some questions that are coming up during their presentation. Okay? And then, no Microsoft WPC session wouldn't be complete unless there was a page with lots of call to actions for all the partners, etc., etc. So I'll do that as well. Okay, so let's go. So you're probably aware there's been quite a lot of presentations and sessions on Enterprise Mobility Suite, and maybe I should start there. We actually now calling the product Enterprise Mobility and Security. That has the advantage of being able to retain the E, M, and S. I've left it as EMS Suite here because I just don't want to confuse you. Maybe I've already done that. If I have, I apologize. But essentially, think about Enterprise Mobility Suite as being made up of four separate components. Probably the one that's most familiar to people is the component called Intune, which we use for mobile device management and mobile application management. But actually, EMS is a much broader solution than that. We also look after identity management with Azure Active Directory Premium. We look after information protection with Azure Rights Management, and basically also behavior-based threat analytics with advanced threat analytics. And if you've been in some of the sessions and you've heard a little bit about the new version of EMS, which we refer to as E5, you'll have probably heard a little bit more about that particular space as well. Okay, so I'll be here after the session as well. If you want to, if it's really the first time that you're hearing about EMS and you want to go a bit deeper, please come up to me after the session. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. So why do we position this, and how do we position this? We really are coming at this space in a different way compared to some of the traditional vendors in this space. Some of the traditional vendors are essentially coming from the point of view of mobile device management. And, I think we've heard a lot during the last 2-3 days that approach is not necessarily sufficient in today's world. We talk increasingly about cloud app security, okay? We really believe that you need to be secure and for businesses to be protected and for their employees to be productive in this cloud-first mobile world. Basically, you need to protect not just their device, not just their applications. You need to protect as well their identity, and you need to protect their data. So our solution, those four components essentially span that whole spectrum. They're integrated together. And that's how we position our solution here. Just one last point on that. Again, the security element of Enterprise Mobility Suite, now called Enterprise Mobility and Security, that area is being enhanced essentially every day by Microsoft, and you'll hear lots more in the coming weeks and months about that particular portion of the offering. So in terms of the opportunity, I think on the first day we had someone from Microsoft say that 41% of all Office 365 users use EMS. Okay? I'm going to tell you today that we have 16,000 partners selling Office 365 on CSP, and we're selling a lot of Office 365 on CSP, and that we have less than 1% of those customers and those users of Office 365 on CSP using EMS today. There is a huge untapped opportunity to sell EMS to those customers today. And some of the partners will be able to talk to that in a bit more detail, but effectively attaching EMS to a customer that is already using Office 365, it's a very interesting opportunity. It's a value proposition that fits very well with those customers. And if I had two recommendations to you, my first one would be if you're going to get into this business and you're thinking, where do I start? You should really start by targeting existing Office 365 customers. Opportunity number one. The second piece of advice or recommendation that I would give to you in terms of how you should think about the opportunity, and specifically because this is a session where we're talking about the opportunity in CSP, you should understand that the vast majority of the customers today that will buy EMS on CSP, they won't just be buying an EMS subscription. They're typically not the type of organization that's capable of installing the solution and running the solution internally. They'll be looking for a partner, yourselves, to be able to install the solution and to run the solution on their behalf. And effectively, that is the opportunity over and above the CSP subscription. There is an opportunity for you to provide both professional services and managed services. I've given you some examples of the different types of service that exist there. One of the services that I tend to talk about quite a lot, because I think it's very, very interesting and it's where the partners can really differentiate, is what I call here advisory or consulting services. Because the service is evolving so rapidly, there's always the opportunity to come back into the customer, maybe once every 6 months, maybe once a year, to explain what's changed in the service, what are some of the new functions, what are some of the new features, maybe even talk with the customer about how their security threats have evolved over the last 6 months or 12 months, and then the ability then to sell additional services and to expand what you're doing with the customer. So again, we're seeing anything from between $30 to $100 per user per month, with a profitability of about 45% on those services. So second piece of advice, if you're thinking about this opportunity, be thinking definitely about the managed services opportunity or the services opportunity if you want to really address the whole picture. Okay? So we're going to go now into the partner presentations. So I think I've maybe got us a little bit 5 minutes extra, so I don't know who gets the chance to do that. But basically what you have here is the what we call the partner CSP journey, and we make you go through a series of pain thresholds and barriers to be able to actually bring this stuff to market, right? And what I wanted the different partners to do was kind of address different parts of this process. Either it's the part of the process where you're in the process of actually creating your EMS offer. Maybe it's where you're trying to figure out what's the best way of generating demand, or you're actually in the process of you need to now deploy those customers. So we'll hear from different partners on different parts of this process. So I just wanted to tee it up a little bit like that. Okay, so I'd like to ask Ulf Manson, president of Lumigate, to come up, just so that everybody knows. Lumigate have been used by Microsoft in FY16 to run a certain number of workshops that we've done with partners who wanted to put in place an EMS offering and build a service on top of that offering. I think Lumigate did about 24 or 25 workshops, and Ulf is going to share some of the best practices and some of the learnings that he's had from those workshops for partners when they're in the process of creating an offer. So with that, Ulf, can you come up, please? And I'm avoiding on your first slide.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, my name is Ulf Manson, and you stole some of my part for the first, so my presentation might be short now. But I'm the president and founder of Lumagate, and we are, for the past 8-9 months, we've been conducting a lot of workshops for hostess in Western Europe, and I want to share our key learnings, how we have created a package and presented a solution to the market. So this is the 5 steps in our workshops, and it's very important in the workshops that we are doing all the 5 steps. We have seen a lot of mistakes where we skipped 1 or 2 of these 5 steps, and that mean that you won't be as good in the marketplace as you should be. So every step is really important. So the first step is to identify the pain points. What kind of pain points do your customers have today, and how can we help them solve that? So a pain point for a customer, for example, might be that they're having trouble with information protection. They might have board members that are traveling around with sensitive documentations. They store that on their laptop, on their iPad, on their mobile phone. So we need to solve the information leakage somehow. And we also need to communicate with the customers with a business value. We don't want to sell the technology. We don't want to talk about EMS or any other technology. We want to sell the business value. So that's really important. And the bottom part there as well, we want all the different parts from the organization involved in your organization. We need the support from the management team. We need a sales guy or sales guys, because they have a lot of insights around the customer pain points. They're out there every day talking to customers, and they bring back a lot of information that is really useful in the workshops. And of course, we also need the tech guys that in the end will manage these services when you start selling them. So they are really important as well. So when we have defined the pain points, we know what the customer, well, hopefully we know what the customer wants, and then we define the product. So EMS, the Enterprise Mobility Suite, consists of several different products: identity, security, device management. So it's really important to look at the technicians in your organization. Do they have the skill sets required? If you're going to build an offering with identity, device management, onboarding, offboarding of new persons, are we able to produce that? Or do we need to plan for internal education? Then we also need to add value on top of Microsoft DMS. We need to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. Everyone adds support and management services. You need to do something differently. You need to think outside the box, find something that's unique in your marketplace. If you have a great brand, if you have a reputation in an area or a vertical in your marketplace, use that. Try to find a differentiator that you can leverage. For example, one of the partners, they were really good in the public sector, and we created an offer for them with identity as the core value. Onboarding, offboarding, connecting to HR system that was really specific for the public sector. And we go to market and differentiate it in that way. Another partner had a lot of lawyers as customers, so information protection using RMS in the middle was the key point for them. So try to think a little bit different. Business value, not technology. And the next step. So if we get the customer pain points, we know what internal training, or we know the different part in the products that we need. We have added the value and differentiators, then we can define our solution. And one thing that we have seen that is really successful is to build a brand, name your offer in a very specific way. Don't just call it Microsoft EMS or device management. Call it something like empowered workplace or mobility workforce or something cool to go to market with. And that's it sounds a little bit funny, but it's really powerful. And if you find a great name, it's much easier in the last step to go to market, because you can differentiate yourself and start writing white papers on blogs and that sort of thing. And if you find a specific vertical, if you have a brand, or if you have some special knowledge that you're able to use in your offering, then a key thing is to find the first customer and use that customer as a reference. Use it online. Write a white paper about it, why your offer is really important and how it works and how it differentiates. You can also write a series of blog posts using the customer references, use the white paper, and really try to take the place as the expert in the field in your market for empowered workforce or whatever you call it. And also try to include everything as a fixed price with the license, your services, and that sort of things. And never forget the upselling. So if you have a standard empowered workforce, then have a gold, then have a diamond, something. Always try to upsell to add value. So, talk about business value. Put the extra time. Technology is quite easy, actually. It's the packaging that is taking time. You need to sit down, think, do it properly. Do not skip any of the steps. The real value is that you are differentiating and adding some special value in your offering. Fail fast. If you don't sell for the first 3 months, take it back. Try and change your value proposition. Talk to your sales guys. What are the feedback from the customers? Is there a value? Do the customer think there is a value, but is it overpriced? And is there something else that is wrong? And just adjust. Update your website. Try new things. And always find a way to upsell. Office 365 might be an upsell, the other way around. And talk business value. Do not talk about the technology. And keep pushing the customers to see the business value. And be the advisor. Do not just let them do whatever they want, because you know best. And if you can present the business value to the customer, you can push them in the right direction. And that's really being a true advisor. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So with that, I'd like to ask Shane Warner from Longview Systems, who's going to provide a little bit of insight in terms of how Longview Systems are doing demand generation. So, Shane, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Shane Weber. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. I don't want to be too loud. And that's the most boring slide you'll see this afternoon, and I know that's what you're all looking at. So I get to be the boring slide guy. I'm going to build this out for you. So my colleague here talked about his company and how they worked with partners like ourselves. So I'm the business development manager for North America for Longview Systems. I work with our entire sales organization to help with demand generation programs, sales enablement, right? Making sure that our products, our services, the things that we're offering to market, hit the market in an effective way. So we worked with a company very similar to yours in this process. And I want to focus on how these programs are better with Microsoft, right? It really helped us in specific areas, and I'll feedback why and where we haven't had the same success prior. I think that's important for everybody to understand. It really helped us go to market quicker in a more effective way. And with what I'm going to talk to you about today is about a toolkit that our sales team was empowered with and enabled with right from day one forward, which we haven't had a lot of success before. We tried to build everything organically or reinvent the wheel with collateral such as infographics, right? Discussion guides, sales guides, email templates, call scripts, all of those things that need to be upfront in your sales team's hands to drive these forward effectively. The other thing we did is built a framework, and I just called it building blocks, keep it simple. There was 5 key things that we're going to replicate moving forward in all our offerings, whether it's our CSP EMS offerings, whether it's other Microsoft offerings across our Microsoft practice. It was a standardized framework, and what I mean by that is we have multiple branches in our company, and I don't know if your organizations are similar, but they all like to do things somewhat different or have a different flavor or a way they approach these types of programs. We find that's not successful, right? So we wanted to standardize it, make sure everybody delivers the same way, the same messaging, goes to market effectively the same way every time. We had focused alignment from top down in our organization, so all of our leadership group was behind the program. They were behind what we had standardized on, what we had put together, made sure the sales directors were on board to push the sales teams forward effectively. Marketing was aligned, business development organization was aligned. So as a company and an organization, we went to market very unified, effectively, to help drive forward our EMS business. And we were one of those 1%. We had delivered a lot of O365 to the market, but we were one of those 1% group. He's laughing in the front, but we were, and there's probably others in here, that we didn't have that conversation effectively enough once we had sold O365 about the next step, which is EMS, which, by the way, will give you tons of cross-sell and upsell opportunities, which it did us when we engaged the market through this demand gen program, because it opens the door. Mobility touches everything in that company's organization, right? So it's kind of the edge-in approach with your customer, right? We had precision program targets, so we knew who we were going after. We've sold a bunch of O365. We know who to go after, right? Your existing customers, you should start with them first before you go after white space. Fairly simple strategy, but we didn't always have that standard approach before, so this helped us move that forward effectively. We had defined KPIs to track our success with this program, so we knew exactly how we were going to track this. We built out in CRM, and we call it campaigns in our organization, but we had everyone in our sales organization tagging that campaign through on their activity through our precision target list. We knew where everything had sat from first point of contact to is it in the sales cycle, where is it in the sales cycle now? Have we closed business, right? Important to understand how effective that program is and to be able to pull it across your organization in an easy way. And that, for us, was through CRM, okay? And then to accelerate this, we decided to have some fun with this demand gen program. We have offices in Canada and the US, so we had a Team Canada versus Team USA type of approach, which was a lot of fun. I don't know any salespeople who aren't competitive, like myself, extremely competitive. So they had a lot of fun with it, and we had incentives for the teams to help drive out this program, and they had a lot of fun with it as well, okay? And in order to generate leads and have an effective program, I talked about this before, but that toolbox is critical. So I talked to the components of that toolbox before, and I'm going to build out this slide for you. So this is what I called the execution phase in this program. And these are where I'll talk to key successes we had in a different way with this program, right? So we built a toolbox, but what we needed to do was empower our sales teams to really deliver this program effectively to market. How did we do that? We did workshops very similar to what you delivered, but internally. We hadn't taken this approach before, and the feedback we got from our organization, our sales teams, both sales directors, branch managers, and the teams was, this was fantastic. We wish everything we're asked to execute on came forward this way, right? Because everything was prepackaged, it was easy, they had everything they needed to help drive this forward and go to market effectively, right? With precision targets, which were existing customers, we also had a white space call and email campaign that was going on. So some that we had had conversations with that we had tracked on O365 they maybe hadn't bought. We were going to approach them in a different way on EMS first, see if we could pull through that way. Okay. We also made sure that we had amped up our social media channels, our digital marketing, both internal and external. That was extremely important. We had never done that prior to launching a program before. We had our landing pages locked and loaded, so customers who maybe we hit with an email campaign could come in and find more information before they decided to have a conversation with us, right? A lot of customers want to do a lot of research prior to sitting down with you and understand your organization and your approach. Now, Microsoft helped us dramatically with this toolbox and toolkit from a sales enablement standpoint. They have a lot of the templates, but what they don't have is everybody's messaging, their differentiation, how they go to market, boxed. That's what you need to add to those tools as well as the branding, right? So we got those locked and loaded very quickly, basically to have that program rubber hit the road very quickly, okay? And then again, we had that cross-company challenge and program running to drive, again, more engagement across our entire organization within this program. It was a lot of fun. People tracked it. We had built a dashboard as well that everybody could take a look at how they stacked up and how each branch stacked up across Canada versus each other versus the US. And it was very successful. So from this template, we now have a real sound system to build other demand gen programs across our Microsoft practice, but also continuing forward on our EMS path. You know, the plus security thing, that's a big window for all of us, again, to go to market and talk to our customers again and continue to upsell and cross-sell within our account base. So those are just examples at the bottom of the slide, snapshots of tools that we built, from infographics to discussion guides and everything that you want to have prepackaged again before you ask people to go and execute on these programs. Okay. I had a 5-minute window, some plainer slides. So thank you to my colleagues for jazzing their slides up above mine. But I hope everybody got a lot of value out of my quick 5 minutes here today, and I appreciate your time. Thanks, Jacob.
Thanks very much, Shane. Just so that everybody understands, the slides are going to be available, so you could, no problems with you taking pictures, but the slides will be available. And Shane referenced some content that Microsoft provides. There'll be a link at the end of the presentation to that content, which, as Shane said, you know, maybe gives you 70 or 80% of the baseline content in terms of telesales scripts, sales presentations, discussion guides, and then you guys have to go and put your own personal value on top of that, right? So with that, I'd like to ask Michael Frisby from Cobweb to come up, and you're going to be talking about opportunity qualification.
Okay.
Michael, right?
Okay. If you say so.
Please.
There we go. So, as Sean says, Michael Frisby. I'm Managing Director of Cobweb Solutions and also Fusion, which is our two-tier CSP provider. So Cobweb's a 20-year-old born in the cloud service provider. We're the UK's biggest hosted exchange provider. We've got something like 150,000 users across 11,000 customers that we provide service for. And so we've been doing cloud for a long, long time. And we became a one-tier CSP about 18 months ago. And in that 18 months, we've generated about 400 new Office 365 customers. But all along, because 50% of our host exchange business was through channel, we wanted to be able to become a two-tier CSP so we could learn how to and help our host exchange resellers also move into the Microsoft stack. And the fact that we've got both a one-tier and a two-tier CSP play enables us to test things out within Cobweb that we then package up and give to all of our other resellers to give them that successful campaign. So very much in the same way that Ulf's talked about and Sean talked about in terms of creating package solutions, understanding your differentiation, and making it very easy for people to be able to take solutions to market. I'd absolutely echo the comments that they were making. So the journey that we went on when we started working with Sean back in March was he actually engaged us with Lumigate to start with, and they helped drive some of the readiness within our internal teams, which was incredibly helpful, and Microsoft funded that for us, so thank you for that, Sean, again. So that really helped give the confidence within our technical teams around making sure they could deliver EMS solutions successfully. And then we went on this journey of how do we take our Office 365 customers and simply and easily attach EMS into those. We tried doing this a year ago with our hosted Exchange base, attaching EMS into that, and technically the two just don't work. So you really do need it to be an Office 365 customer that you're trying to attach EMS into. So we wanted a very simple structure where, again, we have sort of inside sales, tele-based sales teams that we want to be able to take those through, take that team, give them the right tools, the content, the materials to go and talk to their Office 365 customers and get that upsell and cross-sell and drive some of that customer lifetime value. And so what we came up with was this concept of a productivity and security review. So really taking the sort of a consultative sort of monthly account management calls with the customers. We're asking the question of would you like us to help you review and understand and make sure you've got the best mix of productivity and security of some of those scenarios. All talked about mobile workers on laptops, mobile phones with content on there, and help people just get peace of mind. Security is always a hot topic in the press, so it's always something that a lot of CEOs and managing directors are thinking about. So that was the angle we took. 70% of the customers that we spoke with said, yes, please, I'll have one of those reviews. So it was definitely a message that resonated. And what they effectively were doing was giving us permission to talk to them for an hour and understand where opportunities might be within their business for us to sell them EMS. So we built out a standardized questionnaire where we focused again on those 4 key elements of what EMS are in terms of identity, the device and app management piece, particularly the content piece as well was a really hot topic for a lot of customers, and some of the advanced threat analytics pieces and advanced threat protection pieces as well. Out of those, we generated, that 70%, about 60% of those of moving forward into a proof of concept. And as I talked about, because with Fusion, which is our 2-tier cloud aggregator business, my goal is to make sure we can take the learnings we have from Cobweb and package them up and give them to other resellers. So we've now taken that questionnaire, we've packaged it up into an online tool, and we give that to our resellers who can then go put that on their websites and drive their customers through that same qualification process. We score and rate each customer who goes through that and identify where they've got weaknesses based on sort of 30 to 40 questions within the productivity and security review. So really trying to simplify it, package things up, and make it easy for the salespeople to have the conversation with their customers. The other thing that we then did after we'd sort of got the ball rolling within the Office 365 customer base was go back to our Host Exchange base and drive it as an upsell campaign to go from Host Exchange into Office 365 plus EMS. So the EMS just doesn't work against on-premise Exchange, so we really need to get them into Office 365 in the first instance for that. Again, examples of some of the collateral that we produce. So we use social media to promote this out into our customer base a lot. There's an example there of what the security review looks like when you land on the website. But we started off with a paper-based version. So really sort of learning what works, what doesn't work, refining that questionnaire, and say that's now available, and we package up and give that to our resellers. But in terms of results for us, within the first 6 weeks of running this campaign, we generated over 200 opportunities to sell EMS or an upsell of Office 365 plus EMS into our customer base. More than 10,000 licenses of EMS, which was fantastic. So a massive pipeline generated very quickly out of that. We're now driving those customers through proof of concepts. So going on board, and we're starting off by deploying the Cloud App Discovery tool in the first instance, and really sort of landing that message around Shadow IT, which further helps land the importance of the identity piece and the Azure AD Premium, and using that to protect access to all of the cloud services that are being used within a customer's organization. And then just in June, we closed the first 8 customers, provisioned over 700 seats as we're driving through that process. And so we expect to be closing significantly more seats over the coming month. And I'm talking to Sean later about exactly how many.
Exactly.
I'm going to be closing over the coming months. But touching on the point was about managed services. There's a great managed services wrap opportunity with this as well. So it's turning some of that professional services piece of deploying EMS up front and then packaging that up as a recurring service. So constantly going back and looking at that cloud app discovery report and seeing all the new cloud applications that are being used and reviewing the policies and how identity can be Azure AD Premium, the identity to log onto those services. Looking at the app device and app management policies, do those need to be changed on a regular basis? Or looking at the content protection rules, are they still right and valid? And having that sort of regular reviews with your customers, as well as providing that alerting if you see somebody logging in Toronto and in London at the same time, you know there's probably a problem with that. So that's all part of that sort of managed service wrap. That's very easy and valuable to provide out there to your customers and drive that ARPU for our businesses. But that's what I wanted to share. But thank you all for your time and attention this afternoon. I'll hand back to Sean.
Thanks very much, Michael. And I think, probably those of you that are already selling Office 365, you've almost certainly got a sales process where you're asking a certain number of questions to your prospects to qualify the opportunity. And I think you'll find that adding in a few additional questions in terms of the security opportunity or the EMS opportunity, it's actually relatively straightforward. You'll probably have your own questions as well that work well for you in your particular marketplace, but that was certainly something that was very effective and you were able to execute super quickly. So with that, I'd like to ask Sean Farrell from Managed Solution to come up, and Sean is going to be sharing about your experience in terms of piloting and deployment.
Yep.
Thanks very much, Sean.
I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So I think we've heard a lot of stories about how to build accelerators and platforms and different offerings, bundle, package, things like that. I'll take a little different. See if we can get this thing to go.
It's going to go.
There we go. I'll talk to you a little bit about piloting and how we do it and the things we ask. But let's back up a second, because I know that a lot of us in the room, we hear a lot of the EMS, Office 365, CSP. We're hearing all of that this week, Azure, all that good stuff. For us as business owners, VPs of sales, solutions partners who are delivering, whether it's SIs, MSPs, ISVs, we got to really think about what's happening in our world and really take it to a higher level as businesses and say, what are people most concerned about? And one of those topics we believe is security. So when we talk about EMS, we get into really, that topic around, how do I manage the identity of my people in my organization? So as so many companies who came from an SI world who are non-security companies by the traditional term, they say, we do managed services, we do Active Directory integration, we do mobility management. Think about reinventing yourself a little bit and considering yourselves now a great security partner with tools like EMS. I tell people all the time, I believe this is Microsoft's answer to securing their cloud-based products and infrastructure. And it's very powerful. And to talk a little bit about CSP, as you guys become Tier 1 and Tier 2 partners, you can take and bundle and break apart and get different components of CSP, or I should say EMS, in your CSP offerings. So you can pull out things like Azure AD for single sign-on or self-service password reset, or any of the additional tools. You can just do Intune for mobility management. But really think about, at a high level, business-wise, what are we going to become? And I think part of it is becoming more security-focused, identity-focused access and management companies, and managing that, managed services. So anyway, what we do when we go into companies from a pilot perspective is, these are the things that are happening. People are bringing in their own devices. So we hear a lot of the BYOD, and we hear a lot of we don't do BYOD, but either which way, we have to secure devices. So we talk about, real-time alerting and security. Real-time security alerting, we talk about mobility management. MDM and mobility management, if you're an MSP, there's other tools. And a lot of people out there, when you go straight MDM from Intune to something else in a competitive landscape, sometimes the conversation doesn't go very far. So wrapping around the security piece is important. But mobility management, self-service password reset. If you ask any customer who runs a help desk, small, large, we have customers who are 500 seats, 10,000 seats. One of their biggest problems is going in and resetting passwords. And if they can eliminate some of this stuff, they get really excited. So again, just real-world scenarios. MFA, we always say it's something I have and something I know. So multi-ways or multi-factor authentication, multiple ways to make sure that we're getting, the right people are getting the right access to, our cloud-based products. And then this whole concept, you probably hear it everywhere you go now. Everybody's asking us about SSO, or I have this tool over here. I have ADFS over here from Microsoft. But how do we look at that and really create a true single sign-on atmosphere across all of my third-party applications and including my Microsoft stack of applications? So those are the topics. Those are the things that if you walk into a business and you want to really bundle a large solution rather than stick with let's just talk about MDM or something like that. If you really want to talk about big topics where people pay, I hate to say it, but big money, you get into things like identity and access management, mobility device app management, information protection, and then just behavior-based analytics. Tell me that somehow Sean Farrell is logging in Canada right now, and then 5 minutes later he's doing it from California. Just things like that you can get more predictive about. So what we do is, we always use the term dip your toe in the water with a lot of our customers. So we built, like I heard a lot of the guys here today say this, we built these things called accelerators around EMS, and this is one of the ones we did. So what we do is for every single customer, we believe in our world, our whole theme is what we call redefining your reality and how you look at IT, but really it's about, we call it investing in our customers. So that means that we go into companies and we do a full, what we call partner profile questionnaire around EMS, ask them a lot of questions about security topics, advanced threat analytics, what are they trying to do from a single sign-on perspective, and that data comes back to us, and then we get together and, of course, talk about what's most important to that individual customer. We get into these architectural design sessions and, again, go through vision and scope. What are they trying to do from an infrastructure perspective, or what do they really have in their environment today? What tools do we have to tie together with EMS and work to design something specific to their needs? Because, again, we know that Microsoft has an amazing set of security tools with EMS, but there's third-party tools that we're going to have to work with and really be able to talk to and integrate with. And then, of course, choosing and figuring out next steps. What product are we going to use? How are we going to purchase it through our CSP vehicle, NEA, working with your LSP? All of that stuff comes into the mix, and then really helping the customer get down that journey of deploying a security product for the public cloud. So that's how we do it, and that was quick, but I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sean, if you want to stay up, you want to just go right down to the end there? Up. So with that, I'm going to ask the partners to come up, and we're going to try and sit in the front of the stage without falling off if we can possibly help it. You can just go there. I'll go in the middle. Up. Okay. So a little bit dangerous, but so what I thought we could do now, roughly the next 15 minutes, I'm hoping that the excellent presentations, I want to thank you guys again for a really excellent job. Hopefully that's provoked a few questions. Okay, so if there's something, maybe you're in the process of thinking about going into this space, maybe you already started and you're having a bit of difficulty, you're in a, you've got a problem. These guys, they're selling EMS, they're selling services on top of EMS. This is your chance to basically come up to one of those two mics here. There's one there, there's one just over there, and to ask a question. So do we have any questions? Yeah, great stuff. There's just one. Well, you're number two.
The question, yeah, anyone can answer, of course, but knowing that you have different components within the whole suite product, looking at something like advanced threat analytics, and you can position that to the customer as being a solution, but you also mentioned, I think, in regards to preparing your teams, that they can learn, that they can understand how to deal with that, and this could be a quite complex scenario to support for an organization to prepare your people to be ready for that. So are you guys there already, or how did you prepare for that?
So I mean, for me, I think it's with the service as complex and as multifaceted as EMS, your teams are always going to be learning new things. Because we've got experience of running large-scale services in data centers, we've got a lot of that core identity piece. So we understood a lot of that. We'd been doing some stuff with rights management around Exchange Online, so we had a little bit of that. But that's why it's important for my teams to feel confident that they can deliver that. So getting that external help to come in, drive through with them in a workshop way of going through topic by topic, and they'll always learn as they actually execute each project. But we tend to focus on either where we focus the outcomes or where we're seeing the focus of the outcomes being is identity or content protection. They're the two that are easiest, particularly for smaller businesses in that sort of sub 250 space to really understand. So you can start with one or two of them, and then learn the others as you go. So make sure you're very comfortable with at least a couple of the components. Focus on your solutions around those, and then build out on top of that.
Can I add on to that a
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
bit? So, what we did to ensure that our people and more resources could scale out is we developed pods. So we had some people who, to Michael's point, were very senior at delivering identity and certain other components, right? So we put some more junior people underneath them in a pod type mentality so that your trainer is training the trainees who then become a more senior trainer, and we could scale it out as the practice and as our services started to grow and our projects started to grow out in the marketplace. We could scale with it, and it was very effective from our experience.
Okay, thanks very much. Would you like to just go up to the microphone? That way everybody gets to hear your question, and it's being recorded, so it's even better. Thank you.
So we're a managed services provider. We've got some larger clients, but our core focus is between 20 and 100 seats. Do you find, I've heard that it's really the larger organizations that are more interested in EMS. At what size, do you find that there's a size at which it becomes compelling?
So I'm going to take a shot at that, and then maybe Michael or anybody else, but I know Michael has a point of view in this as well. So just to be very clear, I'm speaking with service providers all over the world every day. I actually recommend that they don't try to position EMS in companies that are less than 30 users today, to be very clear. The main reason that I give them that message is because Intune, as a part of EMS, is a product that today you need to provision customer by customer, and you need to configure customer by customer. And doing that for 20 or 30 person organizations, if you're selling any type of volume, is not necessarily a good process. Okay, it's quite not necessarily cost effective, I would say. That is something that is going to change. That the current sort of roadmap is that by the end of this calendar year, you'll basically be able to develop PowerShell scripts that allow you to go and provision 100 Intune tenants automatically and to pre-configure them as well. So that will change, but that's my point of view. In terms of the value that is perceived by small and medium businesses in EMS, I'll leave that to the other guys here because I'm biased, right?
So if I look at my Office 365 customer base, our average size is 40 users. So we've got some up in the hundreds and some much smaller customers. Our smallest EMS customer is actually 12 users. Our biggest is about 800 that we're rolling out. So I think you sell it in a different way, and the larger the organisation, the people who are in those organisations have more awareness of the threats that are out there. But I think if you keep the proposition simple enough and just focus around, say, cloud app discovery, ask the owner of the business if he understands what cloud services his people are using, he'll probably not know that. If you ask him about how does he protect his content on his laptop if he was to lose it, they're not going to have a great answer. So it's about keeping it really, really simple. And so for me, identity and content protection resonates with any size of organisation. So yes, it's easier to sell it into large because they've got a much better awareness of the issues, but you can sell it into smaller organisations if you keep it simple. Don't go into don't stop baffling them with multi-factor authentication and all the different policies you can set. Just keep it really simple. Just keep it simple.
It was mentioned, Ulf mentioned it. I think Sean mentioned it as well. Talking about business outcomes. what's the real-world problem that the customer's trying to solve? If it's not a real-world problem that several customers that you can't name don't have that problem, it's probably not a real-world problem, and you're probably piloting the wrong thing.
And we have about 1,200 customers who are 20 to 100 user managed services. And I fought my sales team for 3 or 4 years. No one's going to buy that product at, I don't know what it was, $8 and some odd cents. And we have an MDM tool built into our managed services platform already. And we went through the whole back and forth of, this is truly a security tool with some mobile device management included in it, and some other products like we talked about, threat analytics, multi-factor. In the end, what we actually did is we just bundled it in with our price per seat per user monthly amount, and we don't even tell the customer what it is, EMS or not, because for us as an organization, it actually gives us better manageability over our customer, self-service password reset, things like that we build documents for when we onboard a managed service customer and say, here's how you go ahead and do it as a user. You can call our help desk still, but here's what you do. So it really automated our process, so it brought my cost of overhead actually down in terms of support needs. But we just bundle it in. It's not a topic of EMS. It's really a topic more of just making sure that you as an organization, if you're a small healthcare client, are secure and meet your compliancy audit if you need to. So that was our take at it.
If it's okay, we've already got a bunch of questions I can see. We're going to keep it moving if that's okay. I think you were first. I'm not quite sure. So go for it.
Any of the 4 partners, are you in the education vertical at all?
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
How does that work out for you? Because it's a hard sell for us, especially at half the price for 3,000 students, per month for your cost. Like, there's no way we're going to pay for that. How do you get that value add there and get it sold?
So in our EDU accounts, so you actually are trying to sell an EDU, or you do sell an EDU.
Right. So high schools, charter schools.
Okay. Yeah, so in our EDU accounts, actually most of them, interestingly enough, they are in some sort of licensing agreement with Microsoft in the form of an EA. In California, they call it a CAMS agreement, and essentially the schools actually own the product already. So it's funny, they're coming to us with all these issues around security, self-service password reset for students, in this blended learning world, because students now can learn wherever. And these tools are, EMS, or the security component, provides a great option for them. So we don't struggle so much with the cost or anything like that. It's in schools and education, it's a very point product for things like managing students.
Yeah, maybe just a quick one on that is that there is an opportunity for you to be able to sell a managed service into a customer that already has EMS, but that's not using it. That may well be the case in certain education institutions.
With our owner about that, because we
Yeah.
kind of have that already. But it's gonna
Probably the way to go, I would recommend. Okay.
The other thing I'd add to that is EMS is coming on CSP. There's going to be education pricing for EMS on CSP.
There you go. That's 2 good answers.
Can we double click a little on Intune? You said, hey, that's kind of hard, but no one actually ever mentioned it. Everyone talked about the security and stuff like that. Are you guys doing Intune?
Oh yeah, I call that kind of table stakes within our services offerings. That's there and it's been there, but that's not really where your conversations are going to expand with your customers now into new revenue opportunities, right? Everybody's kind of been there, heard about it, or already invested in one direction or another there. So that's not going to differentiate you into the right conversations with your customer to drive other opportunity, right?
So same for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the thing there is what we're really saying is there's a piece of Intune which is basically mobile device management that's been around for a while. And most of the folks here are not selling the solution on the basis of most mobile device management. There's a lot more there to it. But you have to have it for sure, absolutely.
If you're are you a managed service provider? Okay, if you're an MSP, traditionally we used to see Intune, because it was only Intune at one point for us. It was our MDM tool, and as a MSP we had other competitive tools we were using. And it was hard to convert my team to say, let's start selling Intune. And in CSP, if you can get into that model, Tier 1, Tier 2, you can break out the Intune component separately, and now it becomes a really cost-competitive solution against other MDM if that's all you're looking at it for. So we're loving it now through CSP. Yeah.
It's a very different compete if you're going up against the Mobile Irons and the Airwatchers.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I have a quite similar question because when you sell a solution, you pick a pain, right? Like you said it. When you sell Office 365, usually you pick the email is usually the way to go. So on EMS, we usually pick the MDM and Intune usually lacks of some capabilities that other competitors do. So basically, I was wondering, how do you drive the negotiation when you're competing against MAS 360 or AirWatch?
Really good question. I think it's probably very interesting for a lot of the, but I'm going to take again a stab at it. We do not recommend to the partners selling EMS to position EMS just on mobile device management. We don't really recommend for them to sell Intune as a separate service, to be very, very frank. Okay, we do probably 80 to 90% of what the other guys do in terms of basic mobile device management, and maybe that other 10% we will never get around to doing it because it's not used by that many companies, and we don't feel bad about that. We actually think that mobile application management is really, really important. Specifically, in North America, where bring your own device is really important, so you can't necessarily manage the device. And then, if you start talking about identity, then it's a whole different world. So really, think of EMS as being sort of 3 core workloads. There's a mobile device management, mobile application management. There's an identity piece. And there's an information protection. If you can get interest in the MDM and identity, you're done. And most customers are going to see the need for at least those two. If you're just on a pure MDM space, just to give you an idea, the value of MDM, it's about $1 per device per month per user. That's not a great market to be in, Any other questions?
Do I need to go to the mic, sir?
No, you go ahead. We're almost out of time. Or maybe I'll repeat it for you.
Please. In regards to the immersion program, I know that Microsoft offers an immersion program. Have any one of you guys used that to upsell EMS to customers?
CAE, Customer Immersion Experience?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, have any of the partners here used Microsoft's Customer Immersion Experience to sell EMS? And that's kind of a solution that we provide where we take a customer through a kind of not really a showroom, but a real-life situation. We try to simulate a real-life situation. So I don't know. Actually.
Yeah, religiously. I would say we do about 2 to 3 a week. And Microsoft compensates us for it, actually, $500 for one we do, so it's worth getting. So again, going back to like what we talked about, business level conversation, to have a larger conversation with business CXO, the CEO sitting in the room, and to be able to put on a customer immersion experience and really show them things like, threat analytics or how to create like a true simplified single sign-on environment so their users have an easier time accessing applications. They really have to see it and how these tools tie together. And it goes beyond EMS. It goes into 365 with potentially Azure and some dynamics. Very powerful to give that. They talk about it as not a training. It's a facilitation is what a CIE is. It's you kind of running around a room and really just watching them play with stuff. And then all of a sudden they get ideas in their head and they go, oh, we'd love to implement Skype or, this part of EMS to be able to easily authenticate into our third-party, electronic healthcare record.
We use it all the time as well, and it actually helps identify a lot of other conversations across that Microsoft ecosystem with your customers, right? Even if it's focused on EMS, it's amazing once you start to show them how it interacts with the rest of the ecosystem, where they start to drive from there with you and your team.
Okay, I think we're getting some pretty clear signals that the time is up. Just so that you know, you've got on the slide here, so some of the content that was talked about, it's in what we call the CSP in a box resources. You've got a link there to that. I've also listed out all the other sessions, even if some of them have already taken place. You can obviously access all the recordings to all the EMS sessions, some really great sessions, so you have that as a reference there. I'm going to be here just straight afterwards if you have any questions, and I would like to thank my panel here for the great job you guys did today. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much.